Members of the British royal family attend Christmas service in Norfolk. Queen Margrethe II of Denmark attends Christmas service in Aarhus. King Felipe VI of Spain delivers his Christmas speech in Madrid. And members of the Grand Ducal family of Luxembourg enjoy the holidays in the mountains. All this and much more coming up next on your Royal Daily News. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Alexandra, and this is your Royal Daily News for December 25th, 2022. In Sandringham, Their Majesties King Charles III and the Queen Consort of the United Kingdom attended Christmas service with Reverend Canon Dr. Paul Williams presiding at St. Mary Magdalene Church. Also attending this morning's service were Their Royal Highnesses the Prince and Princess of Wales, His Royal Highness Prince George of Wales, Her Royal Highness Princess Charlotte of Wales, His Royal Highness Prince Louis of Wales, Her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice of York and her husband, Her Royal Highness Princess Eugenie of York and her husband, the Duke of York, Their Royal Highnesses the Earl and Countess of Wessex and Forfar, Lady Louise Mountbatten Windsor, James the Viscount Severin, Mr. Peter Phillips, Miss Savannah Phillips, Miss Isla Phillips, Mr. David Armstrong Jones, the second Earl of Snowdon, Lady Sarah Chatto, along with her sons, Mr. Arthur Chatto. In the afternoon, Buckingham Palace released His Majesty the King's first Christmas speech, which was recorded several days ago in the choir of St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. In his speech, His Majesty the King paid tribute to Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, stating, quote, "I am standing here in this exquisite chapel of St. George at Windsor Castle, so close to where my beloved mother, the late Queen, is laid to rest with my dear father. I am reminded of the deeply touching letters, cards, and messages which so many of you have sent my wife and myself, and I cannot thank you enough for the love and sympathy you have shown the whole family. Christmas is a particularly poignant time for all of us who have lost loved ones." End quote. His Majesty the King also spoke about kindness, compassion, faith, the working members of the royal family, and much more. If you're interested in watching His Majesty's speech in its entirety, in the description box below, I will leave a direct link to the British royal family's official YouTube channel. Kensington Palace released a hand-painted Christmas card this morning featuring a stag with two little birds, created by His Royal Highness Prince George of Wales. And I must say that the little prince is incredibly talented. I was blown away when I first saw this hand-painted Christmas card, and I believe the medium that he used is watercolor. I could be wrong, but it looks like watercolor to me. But yeah, it's just beautiful. In Oslo, Their Majesties King Harald V and Queen Sonja of Norway, accompanied by Their Royal Highnesses Crown Prince Haakon and Crown Princess Mette-Marit of Norway, and Her Royal Highness Princess Ingrid Alexandra of Norway, attended Christmas service with Reverend Paul Erik presiding at the Holmenkollen Chapel. This is the first time His Majesty the King has been seen in public since he was released from the hospital several days ago. Upon his arrival, a reporter from TV2 asked His Majesty how he was feeling. The King replied, quote, "Pretty good," end quote. When asked if His Majesty will give his traditional New Year's speech, the King replied, quote, "We'll see," end quote. His Majesty the King also said that he had a very good Christmas with his family. In Aarhus, Her Majesty Queen Margrethe II of Denmark and Her Royal Highness Princess Benedikte of Denmark, Princess of Sayn-Wittgenstein-Berleberg, attended Christmas service with the Bishop of Aarhus, Henrik Poulsen, presiding at Aarhus Domkirke. After the service, Her Majesty the Queen and the Princess smiled and waved to the crowds, who were waiting outside in the freezing rain to catch a glimpse of their beloved Queen. In Stockholm, His Majesty King Carl Gustaf of Sweden delivered his Christmas speech from the Princess Sibylla floor at the Royal Palace. This year's speech was a special one for His Majesty the King. Why? Well, on Christmas Day in 1972, a then Crown Prince Carl Gustaf delivered his first Christmas speech to the people of Sweden. In this morning's speech, His Majesty the King sent his warmest greetings to the Swedes living at home and abroad. He also spoke about the war in Ukraine, in which he addressed the people of Ukraine and especially the Swedish descendants who live in the area of Gammelstensky. His Majesty the King also spoke about Sweden's taking over the presidency of the European Union's Council of Ministers, as well as the 500th anniversary since, quote, Gustaf Vasa was elected king. And in September, I myself have had the privilege of being Sweden's head of state for 50 years. Yes, that's a long time, end quote. His Majesty the King ended his speech by stating, quote, regardless of how you celebrate your Christmas, I hope it can give you a moment of peace and quiet and reflection, and that you can think about what gives you joy and hope. Let us all give a thought to those who need it most, and to take care of each other this Christmas and in the year to come. Together with my family and I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year 2023. End quote. In Den Haag, His Majesty King Willem-Alexander of the Netherlands delivered his Christmas speech from the Palace Huis ten Bosch. In his speech, His Majesty the King spoke about, well, pretty much the same thing as other monarchs have said in the past day, which is the energy crisis, inflation, the rising cost of living, and the war in Ukraine. His Majesty the King also spoke about racial discrimination, slavery, and Dutch colonialism, stating, quote, over the past year, my wife and I have spoken to people of all ages about this topic, including descendants of people who lived in slavery several generations ago. This will keep our attention in the coming commemorative year. We remain involved. No one is now to blame for what inhumane acts were done to the lives of men, women, and children. But by honestly facing our shared past and acknowledging the crime against humanity that was slavery, we do lay the foundations for a shared future. A future in which we stand against all contemporary forms of discrimination, exploitation, and injustice. The apologies offered by the government are the start of a long road. Let's keep holding each other, even in these intense times with strong emotions. Marika Lucas Reinevold wrote her own poem when she decided not to translate The Hill We Climb After Some Commotion. It's called Everything Habitable, a combination of empathy, hope, and faith in our future together, end quote. In Madrid, His Majesty King Felipe VI of Spain delivered his traditional Christmas and New Year's speech from Palacio de La Zarzuela. In his speech, His Majesty the King spoke about the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis, the rising cost of living, instability, and tensions in international relations, which are, quote, naturally causing great concern and uncertainty in our society. We cannot ignore the seriousness of these problems, but we also cannot give up the possibility that things can change and improve, end quote. His Majesty the King goes on to say that the success of a nation depends on the character of its citizens and on the personality and spirit which drives its society. Quote, we must have reasons to look to the future with hope. We are one of the world's greatest nations, with many centuries of history, and the people of Spain must continue deciding our destiny, our future, together. Taking care of our democracy, protecting our cohesion, and strengthening our institutions, end quote. In Vaduz, Her Royal Highness Hereditary Princess Sophie of Liechtenstein arrived at the National Hospital to bring Christmas presents to patients who are spending the holidays in the hospital. Meanwhile, the Cour Grand Ducale released 2 new photos of the members of the Grand Ducal family of Luxembourg enjoying the holidays in the beautiful mountains of either Switzerland or France. In England, Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Marie Chantal of Greece took to social media to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. In the photo, the Crown Princess is with her family, His Royal Highness Crown Prince Pavlos of Greece, Her Royal Highness Princess Maria Olympia of Greece, His Royal Highness Prince Constantine Alexios of Greece, His Royal Highness Prince Achilles Andreas of Greece, His Royal Highness Prince Odysseus Kimen of Greece, and His Royal Highness Prince Aristides Stavros of Greece. In Germany, Her Serene Highness Princess Natalie of Sayn-Wittgenstein-Berleberg took to social media to wish her friends and followers a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, as well as to say thank you, to quote, everybody making 2022 such a successful year, end quote. Accompanying her message are photos of her two children, Louisa and Constantine. Princess Natalie is the youngest daughter of Her Royal Highness Princess Benedikte of Denmark and the late Prince Richard of Sayn-Wittgenstein-Berleberg. And finally, somewhere in France, the Comte de Paris took to social media last evening to wish his followers a very Merry Christmas. In his message, the Comte said, quote, for many of us, Christmas means happiness and special moments shared with family. In times of uncertainty, it can make us doubt the future, and I place my hope in the goodness and grace of our Lord Jesus Christ. I wish that we could live in peace in a freer society, that we would gather around a common project based on the respect of man and justice so dear to our millennial nation. On this night of the Nativity, I especially invite you to pray for all our missing loved ones, not to forget the poorest and left out, and to have a thought for those who, on this evening of December 24th, give them comfort and support, end quote. And there you have it. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And thank you to each and every one of you for sending me such kind comments this Christmas season. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry I haven't been able to respond back to everybody, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. Anyway, I will be back tomorrow on Monday, December 26th with all the latest royal news and upcoming events. Plus, later this week, starting on Wednesday, I will have several special segments added onto each episode. And a new segment to my channel that will premiere, I hope, on Friday, December 30th. So, with that, I wish you all a wonderful, happy, relaxing, and peaceful Christmas night. Again, Merry Christmas, everyone, and I will see you all on Monday. Bye-bye.